pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Becca, can you take roll?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
I'm here.
Director Cicada,
Here.
President Ratterman,
Here.
and Director Davidson is currently absent.
Public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Any comments this morning? Yeah, none. Ralph's quiet today. Item number 3, consent agenda. I got one item on our consent agenda. This is an action item.
Did you want to pull that for comment? The monthly investment?
Monthly investment transaction 3A. Move for approval.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Becca, you take roll?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
President Ratterman.
Yes. Item 4, new business, review and acceptance of the fiscal year 22-23 mid-year operating and capital improvement program budget summary. Jeffrey Meyer, there he is.
Good afternoon, President Ratterman, members of the board. Rebecca, do you have the PowerPoint?
I do. I'll pull it up.
Okay, thank you. I was going to make a little humorous comment there, noting that Director Davidson is gone because I'm going to be talking finances. And I know how much he enjoys numbers.
Well, hopefully he's here in time to quiz you at the end.
Okay, I'll make it quick then. Any questions?
Yes. Yeah, we're attempting to set a record for the time it takes to complete this meeting, Jeff, just FYI.
There we go.
Keep that in mind as you're going on.
Okay. I'll keep it short because
Keep it short.
As you know, the mid-year budget review really takes a look at the district's first 6 months of operations from July 1 to December 31st. We take a look at not only the revenues, but expenditures. We look at trends, and we also go from there and do end of year projections to see where we will stand. I'll cut to the chase. Bottom line is we will not be doing any mid-year budget adjustments this year. Where we have some challenges we're facing, but I think we'll be able to handle them based with the existing budget as it is now. Next slide, please.
Excuse me, is this the
Yeah.
first time we have not had to adjust the budget?
Might be. It's probably the first time in my time here.
Really? No, that's, I think that's a marker, a key marker.
I think I've
Which-
said to Jeff probably 5 times over the last week, so we're not making any adjustments.
Well, let me ask a question
Yeah.
first before you go on that. What about in your notes? You have a $200,000 increase that's going over budget for, is it utilities?
Yeah.
Where's it at?
There's actually
Yeah, so
several on it.
chemical costs 200,000 over budget projected, and utilities, that disinfection byproducts 80,000. And then the CPPA rate increase, we knew about that one, 240. So you don't have to make any kind of a budget change to account for those 3 items?
Not at this point. If you look at the slide there, and let's go over to the second to last column on the right, where it's over under budget. We're pretty close on our revenue projections, but on our uses of funds, our expenditures, you can see that I'm projecting being under budget by 155,000. That's a combination of several factors. One, Director Cicada, you brought up increases in service and supplies. It is chemicals. It is CPPA. It is a contract. It is fuel. And that's why you see about $880,000 being over budget in services and supplies. But we also have a number of vacancies in the district and have had through the year. And we're anticipating saving over $900,000 in that area, salaries and benefits from those said vacancies. So all in all, when you factor in the savings on salary and benefits, the overage on service and supplies, that's where I think we'll be okay. And when I look at budgets, maybe we can go down the slide and just jump down to go one more, if you wouldn't, a couple more, please. Keep going. And let's just jump to utilities on the expenditure side. Keep going, Rebecca, please. One more
Tell me
time.
what page that is.
What
on the-
page?
Yeah, I'm struggling to find my pages too, so bear
Okay.
with me here.
Oh, I think it's on page 10 of the report. Utilities,
Yeah, let's
is
go.
that where
to
you want to
utilities.
be?
Yeah,
Starts on 10,
10. Let's start on 10 then. My apologies.
10,
So
11,
if we-
12, 13, yeah.
On 10.
That's where, this one right here starts right
Yeah.
here,
Exactly.
but it's several pages. Do you want to just get to the end?
Well, actually, let's look at here for power. Because you brought up CPPA, which is power, which is about 10 rows down with an original
Gotcha.
budget of 1.573 million. With the increase already in CPPA, they had given us last year, a 60% increase. Now they're coming back for another 40% on the last 6 months. That's where we're projected to be over budget $237,000. But if
Right,
you
and
look,
just to clarify, Jeff, the 40%, we budgeted for the 60% because we
Right.
knew that in advance. We did not anticipate another 40% increase, and that just went into effect this month.
Yeah.
And the last time when we talked about this, you're saying that still those rates are below.
Still significantly below PG&E's rates.
That's,
but
that's,
more than-
PG&E is really high.
More than doubled
It's almost criminal.
for us.
Yeah.
More than doubled for us over the last, well, not even year, over the last 7 months, it's more than doubled and it will go up
Yeah.
again. Probably.
again,
Probably in July at the latest.
You know, the other comment I'd make, Jeff, I'm glad we don't have to make any changes, but having these things happen when we work on that next year budget, all these will be taken into account and ultimately that's when that change will be done.
Right.
And as long as we have, acceptable reason as to why this is happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
what
think
do you
that's
do?
where we landed. That's why we
Yeah.
just didn't make any adjustments.
but that, that is still amazing to me. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That CPPA can,
One of the.
Well, it's not CPPA's fault
No.
necessarily. In defense of CPPA, and
Yeah.
as I sit on that board, these are costs that are being passed from PG&E. And so it's just a pass through of those costs as the costs are going up for PG&E's distribution. The distribution portion of the rate that we pay is going up. And so CPPA has rate stabilization reserves. But
yes,
the
I used
discussion,
that.
the discussion we've been having at CPPA is, in the past, you use those reserves because there's been a temporary increase in costs and we expect that rate to come back down and we can recover, get the reserve back to the target level. And this time we don't expect those rates to come back down. So using the rate stabilization reserve would just hit the reserves unless we're going to increase the rate even higher than we have to in the future to recover that reserve, then we'd lose it, permanently. So the discussion has been, as hard as it is for special districts and, all CPPA customers to stomach the rate increase, it's going to get passed
It's
through.
better than PG&E, and CPPA did try and do everything they can. I think they prepared real well with that first 60% increase, even negotiating with PG&E to try and not have it be that bad.
Yeah, and it's an
So they-
ongoing battle.
Yeah.
That fight continues.
Yeah, but for have it go up that, because, I know at MSD, we were notified, remember, we were trying to look at
The
actual
contract
use
advance rate, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and whatnot. So I know CPPA tried, and I know what my PG&E bill is, so. and I'm
It could
sure
have
all of
been,
you
it could have
do.
been worse. That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then another comment with this, and I'm sure you guys do it, but I'll say it anyway, but knowing that we have all this inflation and we can't get costs or can't get supplies and the costs are so high for the next fiscal year. I think on certain things, like we say, okay, chemicals are terrible, power's terrible, let's add on another buffer of 30% or whatever that magic buffer
Yeah.
might be. But with that being said, what I don't like to see, everything else seems to be doing good, but when I look at all these overages, the telephones at 125%, that projected, materials and supplies, 145%, a budget. It's just like, can we not narrow those down a little bit better? And another one, which you guys all know is one of my, things I don't like those credit card charges. I know you're working on that.
Yeah.
And I hope next fiscal year we have zero or close to it, And then groundwater monitoring's at 178% of budget. I don't know why that is.
That is
And-
probably just because it's paid for earlier in the year.
Well, it can't be 178%. It would be 100% if it was just paid for in the beginning of the year.
178% of what we budgeted or year to date?
I'm looking at the projected budget, projected year end is projected to be at 178%. So it'll be over budget $37,000. So, I mean, ultimately, we're coming in, Jeff, we're still going to be maybe under budget or at budget for a whole. But when I look at these, if some of the others, if we didn't have our salaries less, what would happen here? Then we'd be looking at a huge increase to budget.
Right.
So looking at these smaller ones are still extremely important, and I know you guys know that, but I'm just saying it out loud. Rental expense, vehicle and equipment. If we're, going over budget 12,000, should we have bought something instead? Have rented it? Just,
So those are all things we'll go through line by line with the relevant department heads and Jeff, and as we develop next
Yeah.
year's budget and pinpoint kind of why those items are over, whether that overage needs to be factored into next year's budget, or if it was a one-time, a one-off, then maybe not, or what can we do to mitigate or reduce those costs in the future?
and another thing that I look at is, training and conference and travel, and you just have me in utilities right now. So they're projected to be over budget $3,700, which it may not seem like that much, but it most certainly is to me. And so is, instead of, in something like this, is there some way that we could plan to where, okay, that's the budget, that's all we get. So if we have, okay, with this much money, we can do 5 conferences, which one they're going to be? Meaning that when we get to and we spend it, we don't get to do any more conferences. You don't go there in person, you get on the phone or whatever.
Mhm.
But again, I'm sure you guys think of all this stuff. I'm just pointing it out because that's my job, I think, as a board member, that's all. Hi, Damon.
Hi, just to kind of highlight a couple of those, a lot of what you're seeing in training conferences for Department 54 is also associated with safety training district-wide. So oftentimes we pull out the costs associated with CPR and which encompasses everybody, as well as fall protection out of that budget. So that's kind of part of what you're seeing. And then if you look at safety, some of those components weren't necessarily pulled from safety, although they have a safety nexus. And then in some of them, the projection might not actually come to fruition because of the fact that we had to buy umpteen widgets at the very beginning of the year. And if we just project that out over the rest of the year, it's going to be over, but we don't intend to buy any more of those widgets for the next.
So,
It's not-
Jeff, is there a report, instead of it broken down by department, is that just in the beginning, the first couple of pages, I think, has the total summary, total condensed for all departments, is that right? Right
Yeah,
here,
so in the beginning,
Yeah.
it looks overall in the district. and we
page
break it
1,
down.
yeah.
Yeah, but the reason I wanted to bring this page up, Director Cicada, is
Uh-huh.
if you look at, yes, power is projected to be over budget, but we do have a number of items that we project to be under budget. And there's a couple different ways a finance director can go ahead and look at mid-year budgets. Some of them go ahead and move money around within different line items to make sure they're all balanced at the end. I go for a different school of thought. It's more of old school, is I leave the budgeted numbers where they are unless it's egregious and we need to do a budget adjustment. Leave them where they are so we can track actuals to budget. Because when I get into next year, these variances are going to be very helpful for us as we look at how to budget for next year. Like you said, Director Cicada, when you look at chemicals, knowing chemical costs are going up, then we better take a look at what we have, build in a buffer. But if I start moving budgeted numbers around to meet projected actuals, I kind of lose that reference point. And as we look at this, you're going to see a number of items that are under budget, a number of items that are over budget. But in the long run, when you really look at utilities, the major drivers are the CPPA, which the rate increase we didn't anticipate. Chemical costs, as Damon will be able to tell you, jumped up after the beginning of the fiscal year. And he's gone ahead and been a little proactive. But those type of things are going to be addressed as we move forward. Each department, we're going to be working with them to minimize their expenses between now and the end of the year to bring this gap even further down.
I agree with everything you said. I'm kind of the same way. You want to leave it so you can see the history and budget accordingly next time.
No, and I like the way of doing that, Jeff. That's if we were moving it around, you wouldn't be able to tell at the end of the year where you made mistakes or where you need adjustments and what the trends are. Yeah, vehicles is going to be way under because we can't get vehicles. Salaries gonna be way under because we can't find the right people to hire at the time we thought we were going to.
Yeah,
And just
so-
the sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just to circle back on the, for utilities, the training and travel. We're trending over right now. We still haven't spent this year's budget on that yet. And I think a big chunk of that was probably the safety week that we had, where we concentrated a lot of that in 1 week. Here at the district, and other agencies participated in that as well. So I would expect that to normalize before the end of the fiscal year.
Perfect. Yeah, but I just look at it as maybe being over, but anyway, I understand all those and, those are very important things, but I think the importance is trying to get our budget as close to meeting it and that's it.
Yeah. Agreed.
so-
I just want to give you some praise for bringing in the board of directors budget to have, we're under budget by 19%.
Oh, well, we're gonna be that.
No,
way
largely due to your 6 months.
Of not going anywhere. But now, you know what? I am gonna be changing that.
Yeah,
Going to
everybody's
conference.
We have
leaving.
we have a new president. He'll take care of that.
We're going places.
Okay.
What I like to look at is the grand total. We could pick it apart and ask questions of course and listen to Cindy. But if we go to the grand total, we're saying
Page 2.
326.
Yeah, that's on the first pages.
Yeah, that's,
And that is, Bertha, that's well and fine. That's really cool. But if you're looking at the summary now, add on the salaries where we're saving and then all of a sudden it,
Okay,
it looks
but I-
good there and that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, but I'm looking at utility because that's,
Oh, yeah. No, they're all doing fine and there's things that we have no control over. Just do the best we can and.
Jeff, I've got a question for you. A number of places in these reports, I see references to late fees and other penalties that we've had to pay. Can you elaborate on what would cause that?
Delay in to boil it down, a delay in accounts payable, getting the claims in time to be able to pay the receipt or pay the bills. Some of it is due to some issues over where bills have been sent to, whether it's been email or physical address. And some of it has been timing. But we're working on trying to eliminate that, to work closer together with the individual departments and finance to get those bills in on time to get them paid quickly.
Is there any ramification to the department who gets their bills in late?
Having to come before your board and explain why they're late.
Okay, and there's
That's
no,
enough.
Yeah,
you don't have relationships with your vendors that they could say, Sorry, we were 2 days late. Can you work with us on that?
We worked that as much as possible.
Okay.
You know, here's another option. You have that Cal card, right? Pay all your bills on your credit cards. Real pain for the accountant because you can't, you can't go into a particular vendor file and see the invoice per se. But you can make a lot of money in rebates and you wouldn't have any late fees. Like, and one of them that's good for like telephone bills, utility bills. By the time you get it, you have 3 days to pay it, half the time, right? So put those on auto pay with your Cal card and make money off of them instead.
Yeah, there's some ongoing discussions between finance and our purchasing agent and others involved in that process on how we can streamline it and make sure we don't miss anything.
Yeah, first.
Rebecca, can we please go back to slide number 2? I apologize for jumping around, but when Director Cicada brought up the variances, I figured that we might as well address that and so we can understand how these final numbers are coming up. But all in all, we're doing pretty good. And that's where I come to saying between keeping our, our nose to the grindstone when it comes to making sure we don't spend more than we actually need to, keeping an eye on revenues, we're going to be okay and we don't need any budget adjustments. And you're right, Director Underhill, this is the first time in a long time we haven't needed a budget adjustment. But all in all, when you're looking at year end, we're doing pretty good summary wise. And this is where you break it down by revenues and by the different expenditure types. If you look one more down there under capital outlay being under budget, I think Director Ratterman referenced that as it's hard to get trucks. We budget for what we'd like to be able to get, but when you can't get them all, you're definitely going to be under budget. The only problem with that, it extends into the following year.
Hey,
Next
Jeff,
slide. Yes.
I'm sorry. On the debt service, do you have a list of all the debt service? Because, capital outlay wouldn't necessarily match with your debt service. So on that page 2, you're looking at the debt service is projected 4.1 and change. What all does that consist of? Do you have any report like that?
Well, I do, it's under non-departmental, and we can get to that
Okay. Thank you.
in a new slide. Okay. This is the challenges, pardon me?
And then, when there's so many pages, we have to keep flipping through to try and find what we're looking for. A balance sheet would be kind of nice.
And the staple's on the wrong side too.
But that's because of the copier, right?
Yeah.
There we go. So
So
we,
non-departmental, I don't know what
Yeah.
that is.
okay,
Let's go back to chemicals.
okay.
Uh,
Let's, we'll get to that, Director Underhill. What I wanted to try to do is actually follow the sequence of the slide so we don't jump around too much. But chemicals will be in utilities, and we'll show that in just a moment.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay, thank you. These are the items we've already talked about, some of the challenges we've had facing the service and supplies. So if we go.
Cindy. Go
if we
ahead,
to
Jeff.
Slide 4, okay, if we go. to
Sorry for all the
slide 4,
distractions.
That's okay. It's really hard to do this remotely. I understand that. If we're looking at revenues, this is a summary of our operating revenues. We're going to come in slightly above budget, which isn't bad. And a lot of that has to do with water rates and sewer rates. So we're doing pretty good. There's really nothing here that jumps out that really scares me. But if you look at except for one of the items that we have down here is delinquent account charges. You can see we have not had much in the way of delinquent account charges. We do not send out reminder notices at this point because of the transition from pandemic. But just to let you know that in the February Finance Committee meeting, we will be coming back to start conversations about how do we go back to restoring normalcy with reminder notices and so forth. But that's one of the things that jumps out, that we're not going to get the revenue because we don't send reminder notices right now. Any questions on operating revenues?
No.
Okay. Next slide, please. Slide number 6. Here is the transfers in revenues. When we were taught, when Director Cicada brought up the topic of debt service, we pay our loans in the operating fund, but we bring in funds from 125, 135, and 108 to pay our debt services. The 125 and 135 are the water and sewer capital R&R. Those interest and principal payments are made throughout the year. So when you look at current year to date, it's really hard to match it up to say, oh, we're 6 months through, but we've only paid 12, 13% of it. Well, most of the time, principal payments come in the second half of the year. So what we do is we look at what our scheduled payments are going to be, and that's coming up under non-departmental. And that's how we figure out what we're going to do for transfers in and for debt service. Next slide, please. Here is looking at the mid-year budget summary of expenditures, not only by expenditure type, meaning salary, benefits, service and supplies, capital outlay, and debt service, but also by department. And I believe this is where, and I think it was it Director Thomas who pointed out that there's going to be a significant under budget for the board of directors.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
have to get
that
out
comes
there.
from salaries and benefits side. But this kind of gives you a feel for each of the different departments. You can see in engineering, significant being under budget. We're having difficulty filling the engineering positions.
We've had that vacancy for how long?
Michael can answer that better than I can.
We have 2 vacancies we've had in there for quite a while. It's been
Well, I'm saying what's not getting done without having those employees,
it's been an incredible challenge to get done what we need to get done.
but you're getting it done. Be
Not
careful what you
as much
say.
as we had planned and at an expense. So, yeah, we're working on filling those.
And they're talking about expensive overtime? Or,
There's definitely been additional overtime, but just expense in terms of the limited bandwidth that we have for each of the people that are having to pick up for that. And, what we're not able to get to.
Would that
we'd
be,
like to.
would we see that in the line item professional services?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we've necessarily tracked it that way, but we certainly could go back and look. We are
Well,
using.
we are
consultants.
over budget in
Yeah.
utilities.
We're using
professional
consultants more
services.
than we otherwise would. Absolutely, yeah.
And if we use outside engineering firms to do the work, those will show up in the CIP projects. Not necessarily the operating budget.
Okay. Should stuck with
Right.
professional services.
That's probably the disinfection byproduct study.
Any questions on this page?
No.
In
Jeff, I have a-
non-depart- Go ahead.
I have a question. It's not on that page, but I want to ask the question before it slips out of my head here. Have you been talking to our friends over at the county about property tax revenues? Are they going to be up or down?
I haven't talked to them about next year, and we just received their property tax distribution about 2 weeks ago. So I really haven't had a chance to reach out to them. It appears that we're going to be at budget or a little over budget for property taxes for this year.
So the check that you got recently is the second and final check for the year?
No, it's the first check.
Oh, okay.
That'll be in March.
Generally, that first check represents between 54 and 55% of your total property tax revenues for the year. And depending upon where it falls within that percentage range, you're either going to be on target or maybe a little bit over budget in what you get in revenues.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly. One of the items that Director Cicada brought up was debt service. And debt service is a non-departmental. If you go down towards the bottom of this page, you will see the first set of categories, which are interest for the different loans. There's a PERS UAL, the USD AMI, AMR loan, a back on track truck, USDA, Ebbets Pass Reach 3A. So this is where the individual budgets are going to be for those particular loans. And if you go to slide number 9, you'll see the rest of the interest payments and principal payments. So this is where we track our debt service.
Okay, moving on.
Any other questions on debt service?
Nope.
Okay. Next slide, please. We've talked a little bit about the utilities budget. Rebecca, can you go to slide number 10? I believe chemicals is in 10. I'm sorry,
On
11.
11,
11, one more.
last line, 11.
Last line on page 11, chemicals. You had a question, Director Underhill?
Okay, yes. Chemicals, we've talked several times about combining or asking the other counties or other agencies to do bulk chemical buys. Where
Yeah.
are we on that?
There's been more discussion about it recently. I think the it always goes to a point and then the
It just-
administrative cost and
That's
the
right.
additional complexity and coordinating all of it is usually outweighs the benefit in my experience, but that discussion, I think, because of these cost increases has restarted. So we're talking to a couple of different agencies about that right now, but we'll see how that plays out.
Because, we've talked and talked and talked for years. So let's,
Well, I think it's not that huge of a savings and it
Oh, okay, well,
requires
that was-
additional
yeah.
administrative benefit. So if there was a big benefit there, we would have jumped on it by now. But I think it always kind of winds up at the additional headache doesn't fit well with the potential savings that we might get. And
'Cause
different
we-
agencies are using different chemicals and so it's tricky to coordinate.
because we would have a perfect distribution point or, where they could do deliveries and right here.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, the discussion restarted again recently among a few different agencies. So we'll continue to explore that. And if we see an opportunity where we'll realize some savings, we'll take advantage of that.
And you're saying that the agencies use different chemicals. It's whatever
Yeah.
works for Amador doesn't necessarily work for.
That's
Gallinari.
correct. So we all have different treatment processes and variabilities within those treatment processes that kind of create the situation where one chemical works better than another. So oftentimes at a treatment facility, you might have, one water treatment plant using a product from a company called Sweetwater. And then over on the next watershed over, they're using a product from a company called NTU Technologies. And if they go and jar test that product from Sweetwater, they don't have the removal ability like they would from NTU Technologies. They're going to have to dose more of it. So it's basically turns into you're going to have to use more of this chemical, which might be a little bit cheaper than this chemical. So at the end of the day, it's going to cost you more. That's one situation. Another situation is simply just the type of process requires a certain type of chemical that other facilities might not use. And so really the only thing that you can leverage between all of these folks is the trucking costs. But if you have administrative costs associated with accounting for who did what and who went where and how much are you going to pay versus how much am I going to pay, all of those savings are kind of eradicated once you have the administrative requirement involved. And so that's kind of the hard part about chemicals in general.
And that's true. We've looked at, pooling expenses in other areas as well. And it's true for chemicals, but it generally hasn't, so far it hasn't really, we haven't really seen an opportunity to realize a significant savings there.
Jeff, where do I find fuel cost? I see fuels for generators and I keep looking and I'm missing it. Where is it? Where is it? I'm sorry.
Page,
Operating.
13.
Operating.
It's in operations, but you. have to-
Operating expense, gas and oil.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
I was looking
yeah.
for fuel. It says gas. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Where is it?
It's under operating expense, gas and oil. I was looking for
Oh,
fuel.
oh,
Fuels. for
Yeah, we're right
generators.
above.
I knew it was somewhere.
Right
I
above the
just couldn't
fuels for
find it,
generators,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Gas is a more
Yeah.
efficient word than fuel, so we go for.
And-
Are you sure?
and I think in light of everything that's gone on with adding trucks to the fleet and adding crew members to the district, 66% of the budget
Okay.
is really good.
Yeah. And you're under in the generators, so.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah, and that might be because we probably budgeted for PSPS events and we didn't have any last fall.
Oh, knock on wood. I guess we are. No, we're not out of them yet.
Coming up.
Getting close. Okay, Jeff, keep moving.
Any questions on utilities?
no,
We can let Damon go then. Next page. Michael's on the hot seat now. General management. Well, if we take a look at this, bottom line is, with everything going on this year, we're basically at budget. $5,000 to me is, it's money, but when you look at a $1 million budget, he's doing pretty darn good.
Very good.
good job.
And the unemployment claims, nothing we could do about that. That's, can't
Right.
predict that, so
Yes.
then you would have been under budgeted without that.
There you go.
Yep. Good.
Next slide, please. We can go past this one. I mean, there's not much here other than travel costs, which and then again is reflective of higher mileage costs.
Well, these guys are doing great.
I know.
I think we'll keep them.
What is the
Engineering.
flex benefit account? The flex benefit account, what is that?
That's your medical insurance. That's just the
Oh.
name for it.
I helped in that.
The medical reimbursements, we still doing that out of pocket, medical reimbursements?
Yeah, I think we had to keep that.
And
for the
that's
board.
only for the board. It doesn't, okay.
Yeah, I think we weren't able to replace it the way we did it for the employees, so we had to keep it.
Okay,
Budget and travel.
engineering,
Michael touched on the fact that it's been very difficult when you're looking at attracting engineers here. So that's why you have the salary and savings. But other areas, they're pretty much playing it very, very lean. Honestly, it's a struggle for them to get all their work done because they are lean. And, sometimes when you look at, oh my gosh, wow, they're $500,000 under budget. That's great. Well, there's also reasons why they're that far under budget and not having the correct amount of personnel to do the work. Something's got to give. And so that something's got to give is either you don't get all the work done, or you, in some cases, when it comes to CIP projects, you pay for outside consultants to do that work and charge it to the project.
And Jeff, the overtime number is one we talked about in finance committee, but it didn't get revised downward. It doesn't look like. So did we go back and look at whether those charges should have been charged to a CIP project, or are we still working on that?
We're looking at that, but I'm pretty confident in what we have right here. It's charged to the accountant, charged to the department.
So we just grossly under budgeted?
We did. And there were some payouts that I didn't anticipate as well.
Okay,
What were the payouts? Sorry.
so that's one we'll, comp time, but that would have been within the fiscal year. So that's one we'll have to take a close look at in budget development.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is our use of a headhunter?
I am usually very reluctant to do that. But we have engaged one, in this case.
Because,
We're
If-
casting a wide net.
Right, and I know the feeling goes up and down, different stories and what have you, and I know the ins and outs, but if we're falling further and further behind, you have to weigh that.
Yep. So we've moved ahead with that.
Okay. Oh, all right,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's already out.
okay.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Which recruiter did we use? Bob Murray and Associates.
What's the cost on something like that?
It was a flat fee. I believe we talked about it in finance committee a couple months ago, but it was a flat fee. It was a better structure than what I've seen in other cases where they
Right.
do a percentage.
Percentage
first
of the
year and all
salary
that.
and whatever.
No, it was a flat fee around 20,000, I believe. Have to go back and double check the exact number.
And how long do they have to come up with something? And if
It's,
not,
I think it's overall, I think total it'll be, a 3 to 4 month process, and we're a month into it. So we'll see where we end up.
and if they don't have anybody, we still have to pay them?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
And then we'll just evaluate, the
Mhm.
alternatives that we do have at that point.
maybe we
The
outsource
goal
and
here
not
is to
have the
have,
employee.
a good competitive pool to draw from. And so if that effort is unsuccessful, then we'll evaluate where
You
we're
know,
at.
When
Make a
you
decision.
see that you're saving, $500,000 annually, is it worth outsourcing then instead? Something to look at. You got kind of a number here.
Yeah, we've definitely had
You know,
lengthy
pick and choose what you
conversations on that
outsource.
subject about the best way to do it. And we've talked to other agencies as well, because we're not the only agency that's having a hard time. And it's not just engineering. There's other areas too, where it's become really difficult to find people for public agencies. And so we've talked to other agencies about how some agencies have outsourced engineering to one degree or another, or 100%. It's hard for me to imagine us doing that, and so I don't see us going in that direction. But some combination might make sense. We're going to explore all those options. See what
Is there any way you could, hire more assistant type people
yeah,
to help offload some of what an engineer is doing?
we've talked about that as well, right? So
You're working
project-
at what?
more project managers or inspectors versus engineers,
Right.
and what the right mix is based on what we're able
Yeah,
to.
it's an opportunity
recruit.
to reorganize that.
So yeah, we've explored a lot of those options, and we'll keep the discussion going until we have the right.
And our
Construction.
department is now how many?
We have 2 civil engineers, we have an engineering tech, we have the engineering coordinator, and 2 construction inspectors.
And we're
And
looking for the
district- yeah,
one,
including the district engineer, that's 2.
well, it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm good.
Okay. Administrative services.
Yes. Bottom line is, with all the things we've faced, we're still gonna be pretty much at budget. When you're looking at salaries and benefits and all that, believe it or not, we're projected to be under budget. And laying awake at night, last night, trying to figure out how did that happen, I realized it's because I was on disability for almost 2 months. So that helped save the district some money.
Are you
So
gonna do it
I did
again?
my contribution, just like the board does theirs. All in all, I think we're doing pretty good. The biggest area of concern for me is bad debt.
On a $2 million budget.
And
Sorry, Jeff, I was looking at going, wait, he's projected to be over budget 24,000. But yeah.
I-
it's basically-
Go ahead, Jeff.
yeah, sorry, I forgot because of the bad debt when I went down to the second page. But when you're looking at this bad debt expense, that's basically partially due because we're beyond just 1 year of bad debt recorded in this year. It picked up last year's as well. So that's kind of an anomaly. We'll be taking a closer look at that as we prepare next year's budget. Plus, we're also looking at those third-party payment processing fees. And hopefully, with the changes we're making, that'll go down. Here, as part of the way I look at things, I try to be very conservative as my year-end projections. I don't want to say, oh, we're going to be able to save $30,000 here or $20,000 here. This is where I get conservative. And are we going to be $90,000 over budget on those third-party payment fees? I don't think so, but it's the safe bet for me. And especially now that we've got an item that's where some of the fee structures are changing, hopefully that number will come down.
Would be wonderful.
Any questions on admin services?
Nope.
Water resources. Bottom line, pretty much balanced out.
Good news.
Very good news. Director Cicada brought up the capital outlay, and I think it was discussed as well by President Ratterman that I think the biggest challenge we're facing now is the capital lease to own for our vehicles. This is the budget. It's not I project we're going to get all the projects done. It's just the vehicles we're going to be short on. Any questions here? All right. Well, now that we don't have to do any budget adjustments, there's no board action other than kind of receive and file. I was ready to jump into next year's budget for fiscal year 23-24. I did get some indications as to what we should be looking at, especially service and supply costs and how we deal with engineering issues and vacancies. And so I've been able to take some good notes here as to how we're going to move forward on this. But I wanted to give you an idea of where we are on the schedule. Today is the first day where we kind of kick off the budget for next year. We looked at this year's budget and moving forward. By the end of next month, at the latest, I will be sending out budget worksheets, instructions, and guidelines to departments. We're scheduled to look at revisit our 5-year CIP. As you're aware, we update that every year, and we do that before the budget is adopted, so we know what type of support we're going to need for those particular projects. Plus, it helps build the budget, and we're looking at doing that in March. Departmental goals and objectives are required to be submitted to the general manager and admin services by March 30th. This way, we try to match up their goals and objectives with what they're asking for on the expenditure side. Departments are required to submit their requests to admin services by April 7th. And then April and the first week of May, admin services and the general manager. Use that time to review all the different budget requests. If there's any new positions, capital outlay, we'll review the revenues. We'll use that month to pull together a draft budget. Then Michael and I will sit down and talk to, actually more Michael than me, because he's got the eagle eye and he's not afraid to take out that red pen, to meet with departments and go ahead and go over their individual budgets. So that by the end of that time frame, and then he and I will get together again, we will be able to put together a preliminary budget and give it to the finance committee on May 16th. It'll go to the board on May 24th. We'll have our budget workshop on June 14th, and then we'll bring it back to your board for adoption on June 28th, the last meeting in June. Any questions on the schedule?
And so you'll let us know if anything changes, of course.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, anyone else have any other questions for Jeff? Russ?
Yeah, Jeff, the dates of your preparation for the 23-24 budget schedule is really interesting and helpful to me, but do we have a parallel type of presentation on our rate study? I know we've kind of launched into that. We can't really do a realistic job on the rates study until.
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, and one of the things we talked about in the last finance committee meeting was actually, because we have a schedule, and I'm going to touch on this in my report, and we don't want to get too far off agenda here, but we have a schedule, and we're going to start, even though the intense public outreach doesn't start for a few months until we have the financial plans completed and reviewed and the rate design completed. But, we had a good discussion at the finance committee, and the recommendation from the committee was start reaching out now to inform the public that the rate study process has started and what that outreach, what that schedule will be, so that we make sure that, nobody's taken by surprise for it, that we've done a lot of outreach, even outreach to let people know the outreach is coming.
It's going to be a subject on the agenda for the External Affairs Committee.
The public outreach plan for the rate study will be one of the first agenda items for that committee.
External relations.
Okey dokey. We'll call it the committee.
Let's call it the ER.
Well, okay,
ER.
we'll call it we're the process committee.
Michael?
On the agenda.
But yeah, that was one of the things I thought would be appropriate to bring to that committee is the outreach plan. And, we'll bring the financial plan to the finance committee and the outreach plan to the external relations committee.
Perfect.
Okay, back to the budget. Any further questions for Jeff?
Thank you,
Any
Jeff.
public comment for Jeff?
Thank you, Jeff, for a great presentation. I wasn't thinking of speaking at all. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. But really quick, middle of last year, you took out two financial loans with two banks at $29 million.
Yeah.
How does this figure in with the success of not having to adjust the budget this time around? Or am I talking apples and oranges and just don't know? And I apologize for asking the question. I don't know if I get an answer next time or whatever.
No, we can address that. It's a great question. That was a big financial transaction for us. So we're happy to talk about it here. And I don't know, Jeff, do you want to take that or I can respond?
Yeah, I can jump in here. The two loans you're talking about, water and sewer CIP loans. Those loan proceeds in the work show up in our capital improvement budget, our CIP budget. They don't really necessarily show up in the operating budget unless our staff work on those projects. If they work on those projects and they do this and they track by putting their projects on the time cards, their time gets reimbursed from those projects back into the operating budget. So that is the nexus between those loans and the operating budget. is the amount, is the time people spend on those projects gets paid back to the operating budget. Other than that, all the construction costs, the engineering costs, everything, permitting costs, all show up in the CIP budget.
Oh, very good.
And the debt service will come, will show up there as well, right?
The debt service will be in the operating budget, but as I pointed out in the revenues, we transfer money in from the capital R&R funds, water R&R, sewer R&R, to pay for that debt service. So none of the debt service is coming out, is being paid for by the operating fund. It's paid for by transfers into it. It's a net zero.
Right, but that's where it shows up in the budget.
Yeah, it shows up there.
Yeah. No, those are good questions, bro.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That was an excellent program you guys put together last year. And again, congratulations on the mid-year success.
Well, thank you for your question, Ralph.
Should we point out that the interest rate that we were able to negotiate, the timing on that application was such that we're earning more on the investment than we were paying for the money. Good job.
Michael,
All right,
I do have one
continue.
more comment, if you
Oh,
don't
go ahead,
mind.
Jeff.
You were brought, a few minutes ago, we were talking about outreach on the rate study and that we've already started that process. I just wanted to let your board know that going out with this bill that's going out in the next couple of days, we do notice there in the message box that there's an upcoming board meeting on February 24th where your board will be reviewing the financial plans on both the water and sewer side, and we've invited the public to either attend in person or online. So we've already started that outreach.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I think that's only gonna hit half the customers before the board meeting, but we have some outreach planned for the other half because we know where that is. And I think that might just be a regular update until we're through the rate study process, that we keep people informed as to where the opportunities to review the plans are, where the opportunities to provide comment and feedback are.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our agenda, item 4, new business, 4B, presentation of the district's new smart meter portal. Jessica Self.
Hey, good afternoon. So I'm here to talk about the much awaited Tyler Smart Meter Portal. We now have access and we can now look in the back end and see how it will function once we do go live. So we just wanted to take this time to walk through the portal with you guys so that you can kind of see what to expect and then have a little more knowledge before we roll it out to our customers.
And just to give context to this item, when will it be, when is it anticipated to be rolled out to the?
I will get to that at the end of the
Oh, the year?
presentation.
Okay.
At the end of the presentation.
Okay, so first, I'm just gonna kind of go through and you guys have your printouts here. What currently the customers, if they log into their account right now and want to pay their bill online or access their account online, what they're seeing, what they have access to. So I'm not going to go through everything, but one thing they can look at here is transaction history, so they can see how much they paid. And then up at the top, you can see they can go from and to, so a certain time frame. So, you know, they could do a full year's worth of payments. So that is an option. The next slide is
Consumption.
Is consumption. Sorry about that. And so currently, and this is the big one that I want you guys to see, is currently when they look at consumption, they can see what their consumption was for the whole billing cycle. And it's just one bar, and they can compare it from the consumption from last year. So they can see that comparison and they can see that over time. So that is what currently customers have access to.
Even the one from last year.
Correct.
Okay.
So you'll see that there's a comparison on this one.
Okay.
And this account in particular, you see that there isn't a bar for the winter billing cycle. That's because this account was pulled from an Ebbets Pass account. And we did not bill consumption for both years due to snow and AMI integration. Okay, so Once this goes live, customers will be able to see consumption in a whole different way. And you can see up here, and I'll kind of highlight it. Oh, the laser doesn't work on the TV screen. I forget. No. If you don't mind going back to that one, I'll just keep talking. So what you'll be able to see is you can see the breakdown of daily consumption. That's what this screenshot shows to date for the month of January.
What does that little box say? I can't read it. You know,
Which little
something
box?
about consumption.
So there's
maybe?
consumption, so you can click on a day. So you can actually like click on a certain day, and it must be where my cursor is sitting
Yeah,
right now.
So what does it
So
say?
consumption, it says 0 cubic feet. So for that day, there was no consumption.
Okay.
And then there's an estimated price. I'll get into that in a second.
Okay, go
The,
ahead then.
the temperature, the outside temperature, and the precipitation amounts.
Awesome.
So it actually has a weather correlation on there as well. And that's what that red line is temperature. So you can see with this particular account, which is great because we have a lot of accounts who, you know, there are customers who are only part-time residents. And you can see here where it shows usage on certain days and no usage on other days. So if there was a customer who was gone for the week and they came back and they could see potentially there was some usage, is there a leak? Did they not turn their sprinklers off? You know, what is that? So you can actually see that, you know, down to the day. You can also toggle and click where you see the usage. You can do monthly or a custom consumption. So the next slide, the next page for you guys, I want to highlight. So you'll see the box around billing and weekly comparisons. So currently that data right there is not reflective of our rate structure and how we bill customers. So that's one thing that staff are going to be working with Tyler on, is getting the correct data to do the appropriate calculations for this portion of the portal. So what's great about this is once it works is customers will be able to see their estimated bill based on their up-to-date usage, their consumption, and then also just a comparison of how much water is costing on a weekly level and comparing it with another week, which is great. But right now that data it's not ready yet. So there's still more work to do in that.
And how long before it's completed?
So we don't know for sure. Hopefully it won't take very long. We just need to work with Tyler and really understand what data they need. As I said, we're just kind of diving into this and looking. So this is just one to-do list of where we need to just get this sorted out before we roll it out to customers.
Any anticipation of how long it'll take? No.
Hopefully a couple weeks.
Before you leave.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Are you coming back?
You know, the couple things that I see that are kind of cool, that unbilled consumption date, that's kind of cool. That would let people know exactly, you know, where they stand.
Right.
And then that, you know, one of my things, that pay now, they're complaining about it, but it's right there for them.
Oh,
That's
Absolutely.
nice.
You see it everywhere when you're in your
Nice.
account.
Mhm.
So I'm going to kind of switch over to the back end of the portal and what our staff can do and how we can manipulate what we see. So what you saw right now is kind of everything. So you can see here, this is a screenshot of what it looks like. So we can actually click on and off to show the cost. So that cost, if you go on the other slide, is, as a reminder, just the cost of, you know, potentially how much water they're using that week and how much that costs. So we can pull that off. We can pull off the weather data. Basically, we can toggle on and off all that information that we saw.
Kind of like, why would you want to though?
Right.
So we're paying for this big program, let the customers use it now.
Right. But if maybe potentially if there's an issue with our system at the moment, we can at least just pull it off until
Okay.
we fix it, you know, something like that. But we do have that option. The next slide is just showing what we can do as far as enabling or disabling specific alerts that customers can receive. So whether it's leak alerts or billing thresholds, and I'll get into that on the customer side in just a second. But this just kind of shows that we have the option to deliver appropriate messaging and alerting as necessary. Okay. So I'll get into all of that, and so it'll be a little bit easier to understand here. Okay, so when the customer has access to this, they can actually go in and they have the opportunity to set up notifications, leak alerts, and billing and consumption alerts or thresholds. So they can go in and add certain information. So as far as notifications go, they can say that if they want to be notified for something, whether it's a leak alert or billing or consumption threshold alert, they can receive an email, they can receive a voice IVR message on their phone or a text message. So they can enter their contact information of how they would like to be contacted.
And more than one option would be available? I mean,
Correct. You can toggle all those on email, voice, and text if you want.
Okay.
Or you can have none. The next thing I wanted to show you guys is just kind of zoomed in for the billing and consumption thresholds. So you'll see here, customers, as far as the billing threshold goes, they can choose to receive an alert if there's a certain amount that they're going to be billed. And what's nice is, right here where it's set, it's $133.96. You'll see below it that actually Tyler is it's providing that number based on historical usage for that customer. So you see below, your average bill for the last 12 months was $133.96. Your highest bill in the last 12 months was $151.98. So kind of gives the customer a little bit of a guide on if they want to have that threshold alert, they have a better understanding of what to put in there. And then you'll see on that same page for the consumption threshold alerts, notify me if my daily usage exceeds a certain amount, notify me if my monthly usage exceeds a certain amount, and you'll see down below there are some help, there's a little bit of help. Average daily use was 20.76 cubic feet. Average monthly use was 1,266 cubic feet. So that gives them some guides. So that's a sneak peek into what the customers have access to and how they can kind of make their account their own account and how they can set up alerts if they choose to do so.
They're going to be oh my.
Yes,
God,
it's
this
pretty
is
neat. Yes,
This
it's pretty
is
neat.
Amazing.
Yes.
They're
So
going to have the most educated.
Do you have any
Customer-
idea of how many customers do not have access to internet?
Good question.
that is a really good question. I'm not.
I think we can touch base with the county on that, because I know they've done a lot of advocacy for the extension of broadband.
And you'll be teaching.
So they might have some more
Yeah,
detailed information
yeah.
than we do on
Yeah.
that, but it's
It'd
something.
be interesting, and at some point when we roll this out, I'd like to know what the final cost was. With all the baloney that we've had to deal with Tyler, it is what it is. But, we anticipated it to be this much money, and we all know we've gone over, and I'm talking about, having to keep that other program on, just what was the total of everything, just so we can remember, as past experiences, because this was, I want to say, probably a nightmare for all of you to do.
It was
So-
a process.
I
Wow, what a bummer.
Yeah,
I,
and how are you going to roll this out?
Okay, so
You're gonna.
now we're getting towards the end. You can see just by looking and what I've showed you, there's still some work that needs to be done on the Tyler side of things. So as far as an implementation start date, we don't yet have a date, and I'll explain why, but it's coming. It's around the corner. So the first thing is the billing estimator. So that's the part that I talked about with, we need to work with Tyler, and hopefully that can be resolved pretty quickly. The next two things, the meter installs and the meter lids, this is something still with AMI. So our AMI project is not complete. We're still working with Mueller to finalize that project.
Do you owe them money still?
We haven't closed that out yet, and a lot of it though is just they couldn't get the meter lid supply chain issues. So we still have, I think it's about 1,500.
Did we know that, because in the engineering committee, I heard something about we don't have the right lids and it can't be read when it's underwater or whatever, and I'm thinking, huh? Anyhow, but you guys
we knew
had
we had to
planned to have
replace-
though.
Yes, we knew we
It
had to
wasn't an
replace the
extra
lids.
cost.
We just
Okay.
couldn't get them
Okay,
in time.
gotcha.
Material supply.
So they just use something to get you going, but they're not good in the winter or underwater.
Yeah, the underwater thing is gonna be a recurring issue as meters, as.
But it's like with that, with you having so many people that have snow, wouldn't that be something that you guys knew of and you plan to have the proper?
The snow is okay. I think it's
Right.
just if the meter is actually submerged, it won't report. But my understanding is as soon as it dries out, it uploads everything.
Right, so during the atmospheric river storms, we had a period of time with.
So it's only a couple of days.
Right.
It's not like,
And then it
oh, I would
catches
miss a
up.
billing
It'll
cycle.
store that data and then as soon as it can, it'll report.
Yeah, and one of the things that we're
Gotcha.
learning though is as we anticipate billing cycles, we need to assess the integrity of the system at that point in time to say, okay, do we need to
Adjust. it.
adjust something? Right. I mean, or we're in the middle of another storm. Oh my gosh, we have
Because
this area, heaven forbid, is flooded. We're gonna need to, we're gonna need to kind of just pay more closely, more close attention to what's happening relative to the network.
And they don't have
Because
steel boxes to prevent that.
No.
I brought in a picture of what my driveway looks like, and it is terrible. It is terrible. I have solid ice. I don't have snow. I have ice.
But when that snow melts, could that potentially fill up that meter as well? And for how long?
Well,
the
yeah, I mean,
atmospheric
we
river,
get,
we
we
know
get a
is
lot of
what-
runoff every year in the higher elevations, so. We'll have to wait and see, as Damon said, I think it's something we're aware of that we'll keep an eye on now to see as, whether it's during an atmospheric river event or during the snow melt up in the higher elevation, to what degree is that a problem and what can we do about it?
Was this brought up when you,
1820 Meadowview is where there's.
when you guys were researching these products? I'm surprised, or maybe it was, nobody thought of, well, what happens when there's underwater, which I would think of melting snow for one. So what's that backup plan? And I would have hoped that AMI would have said, now we have this that you need when it's underwater, or no, when it's underwater, it won't work. You still would have gone with it, but still knowing and preparing would have been a really nice, I was surprised to hear it in the meeting, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that it's not underwater for long. We definitely, don't want those meters to be sitting underwater for a long period of time, and it's an
Will they get
unusual
damaged?
circumstance when that happens, I think. And so the fact that they upload immediately as soon as they can.
They have water inside them anyway. It flows through.
Yeah, but something on the outside, I don't know, I'm just asking.
Well,
I think more than anything overall, it's just generally potentially an unsanitary condition for the water supply in general. So
Oh, right.
I think independent of AMI, just it's not something that I think any water utility would accept as, commonplace to have a number of meters that are just permanently underwater all the time. I mean, we do have situations like that. Even our own pressure reducing valves have issues like that, but it's always something that once we discover this, we need to come up with a solution to repair it or fix it.
Very good. Go ahead, Director Thomas.
I really like everything about this, but I just wonder, back when the days when you were demonstrating the ability of, the accuracy of the meters and you're filling a 5-gallon bucket, I would put money on the fact that less than 1% of our customers know how many gallons there are in a cubic foot. So can we change this to gallons instead of cubic feet?
That's a good question. We bill in cubic feet. So it's something I can look into.
Well, at the very least, I would like to see if you can put someplace on each and every one of these reports that a cubic foot is equal to what, 7.5 gallons?
48, I think, yeah. So we can put that on the website too.
Yeah.
Have that
Or-
strategically.
Or is there
located.
some wording within the Tyler portal? Is there a place where we can just write, how to do the math yourself?
Yeah.
When you
Mhm.
see this number, multiply by this or divide by this and you get gallons.
You don't have to multiply by anything or divide by anything. You just multiply the cubic feet times 7.5. But
Or 0.075. You multiply or divide to get to that number.
Michael, are you looking
I
at
don't
that?
know, but anyway,
Are
go
you
ahead.
looking up the gallons?
You weren't a math major.
No.
well, no,
I think it's 7.
I'm, listen to me, what
Yeah,
I'm, what I'm,
7.48.
I think that's right.
what I'm visualizing is within a family, you know, the mom and dad are looking at this thing and they're looking at the 3 kids and they're saying, you use too many cubic feet of water when you shower. That doesn't translate to the average kid or to the average person, actually. So why inquire and see if they, we bill on cubic feet, but can there be another box that says your cubic feet converts to, you know, this many
Mhm.
gallons that you used in this month? Isn't that logical?
Oh, yes, it is.
We'll take a look at it. Absolutely.
And if not, just put a little.
Yeah,
thing up
especially if it's
there
for the
that says
customer,
convert
they-
your
And
cubic feet
and
to
clearly
gallons.
posted on our website.
Awesome. This is gonna
We'll
be
get
great.
there. It does look good.
This is gonna be great for our customers. I mean, just the real time numbers for both us and them for all sorts of things.
Okay, and
Great.
yeah, what was your answer to Cindy about the number of people that don't have access to this?
They will check into it.
We're gonna look into it, and then, because I know the county's done work on it, so we'll follow up with them and see if they have actual numbers on that. It might be hard to pinpoint in terms of our specific customer base, but countywide, they might have some
Countywide,
statistics.
You know,
that
find
help
out
us.
who has internet available versus how many can afford and have it, because it's inexpensive.
Yeah, and we were supportive. They were in the lead role on that, obviously,
Right.
but we're supportive of their advocacy effort to expand access to broadband. And this could be another, you know, another argument for why everybody needs access to it.
Timeframe or what, you know, you said,
Yep. So currently, Mueller's project is set to close out in May. And so we're hoping to still, it all depends upon, you know, getting the supplies in for the meter lids and all of that to make sure that we have a solid enough customer base
so you
to
said
access.
May.
Yes, but hopefully, I would say that would likely be the latest. Hopefully, we can go back from
Springtime.
there.
Let's just say springtime.
Spring of
We're
2023.
looking,
How about when they just get it done, because we don't. really
Right,
know.
right.
It's been
good
that way.
information. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Jessica.
Are they gonna use
job.
CCWD as a reference?
Don't know.
You might want to ask them.
Yeah.
You should be.
Any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna move on. Reports, general manager report, Michael.
All right. Sorry, we missed your target of a 30-minute meeting already.
Yeah,
So I'm-
no, I know Jeff
it
just
quick.
blew that out the
I'm
water.
just gonna go
Jessica
ahead
did
and,
her part.
I'll take
She
us to 3
busted through
o'clock
that.
and then we can go from there. So, storm, I know it's nice and sunny out now, but, still in the process of kind of evaluating the storm damage. Damon met with FEMA staff in the field yesterday. Was that yesterday or day before yesterday? To show them our Middle Fork pump station up on the McCollum, which is one of the issues that we're concerned about. We have a road that is washed out. So all in all, thanks to the preparation and the hard work of our crews, we came through it with pretty minimal damage. A lot of overtime, a lot of extra work to manage all those flows and keep everything up and running. But pretty minimal overall considering the severity of those storms. But we're gonna, you know, pursue the recovery of those overtime expenses and any damage we incurred during those storms. So we'll work through that process. We've spent a lot of time this week in particular on our partners in West Point, the Blue Mountain Energy Group, and Phoenix Energy came to us with a grant opportunity from the Department of Energy that is looking for innovative technologies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from wastewater treatment plants. And we think that the co-location of our wastewater treatment plant with a biomass power plant is a really phenomenal opportunity to interconnect from an electrical standpoint, provide purple pipe reclaimed water to them, decrease our vehicle miles traveled for our shipping costs, for our biosolids, just a whole range of benefits, and a lot of them will actually have, will reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So we've been pulling together, it's kind of the first stage of the grant application process right now. So kind of is to submit a concept. So it's not a full-blown grant application, but we're trying to put a lot of work into it and see where we land, and then we'll get a go, no go kind of response from Department of Energy, whether we should go ahead and submit a full-blown grant application. But that's been a fair amount of work, but it's also the potential benefit for us is great, because otherwise the direct connection to that electricity and the utilization of that water is going to be expensive. And that's not the kind of thing that we budget for. Well, that's not one of our operational priorities, but it would be really beneficial to have. So finding grant funds would be the best way to do it.
So the grant funds are, they could be specifically targeted for that interconnectivity?
Yeah, so that's the package that we're submitting is the switchgear on both sides. We're probably gonna have to have a 12 kV transmission or distribution line, because it's gonna be too great of a distance. And so the switchgear required, the wastewater facility would still have to have access to the grid and a backup generator, because the biomass plant is supposed to be online 90% of the time, but we're 100% of the time. So we still need access to those other sources. So the switchgear required to facilitate that, we're putting in charging stations and proposing to include electric vehicle service trucks and a front loader as a part of that project. So the whole basically electrification of the whole facility, including the vehicles, is the goal. And so I think it could be a pretty strong grant application. It's a pretty exciting project.
I know how you could be 100% assured that it would be approved. Just include the fact that you're going to put in a Tesla charging, a bank of Tesla
Well,
charging.
that is part of the application, not Tesla, because I don't think they're making service trucks.
No. I mean, for
electric vehicle charging stations.
all the people, for the residents of the area.
Available to the public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't you?
Yeah,
talk
that'd be
about
great.
that
And
before?
I can see somebody in Sacramento saying,
From what I understand, the hot water that their byproduct is going to be used for our new sauna program.
Right.
Isn't that what we
Right.
found out at the Murphy's meeting?
Absolutely.
But still, put it up there anyway.
So we'll keep you posted on that. Hopefully we get good news from Department of Energy there. And then sticking with some Energy Committee items, we had Energy Committee and Finance Committee last week. The Copper Cove wastewater and lift station rehab project is back online. Mazingo has hit the ground running again this week after being off for a month or two. And we're in regular contact with the HOAs on that project, keeping them updated. We're also meeting regularly with the project proponents for the Jane Lind Elementary School interconnection and the LGI Homes housing development in Valley Springs. Both of those things moving forward pretty quickly. In both cases, the project proponents are they want to move fast. So that's there's been a lot of focus on that, and also CV developers, all the different projects they have going on in copper. They're making a lot of progress on the design of the force main, and a lot of their other plans are moving forward. So a lot of work in the engineering department on working with the partners that are bringing new stuff online or bringing new stuff to the district. So.
Michael, you said you had that last week there was an energy meeting, energy
Did I say
committee
energy?
meeting?
Engineering.
Engineering, okay. Go
Sorry.
ahead. I knew we had new committees, but I.
Yeah, no.
Not sure.
Maybe next year.
you don't remember making that one?
We had a CPPA meeting last week. You already heard the bad news that came out of that one. We have UMRA this Friday, and next week we'll have an Aqua board meeting. We also have a legal affairs meeting next week. And let's see.
External
We've
affairs.
got an external relations in February.
Yeah,
And we've got a town hall in Valley Springs. Valley Springs is our next town hall. And it's gonna be February 16th. It was either the 15th or the 16th. So now we have a date nailed down. Thank you, Jessica.
And that
And
will be for what?
Valley
it'll
Springs.
be, we're gonna
Just a-
address, yeah, or just part of our normal town
Right.
hall cycle. But there's a lot of issues in particular that have come up recently in the Valley Springs area. I'm sure people are gonna want to talk about the recent floods and
Well, that's, yeah, that
CCWD's
was gonna
role
be
in
my
that.
question
Yeah.
about extent of
Um,
damage down there.
yeah, and CCWD's roles and responsibilities there, as the Director Davidson and Director Adderman, I think, have requested a description of how New Hogan functions and the operation of New Hogan and how that's operated. So we'll include that. Smart meter, project highlights, things like that. So it should be
When
great.
is that?
What did I just say? February 16th
Thursday, February 16th,
evening. Yeah, probably 5:30 or 6.
At where?
Valley Springs.
Rancho Calaveras Clubhouse.
Oh. Yeah, we know that place well.
Yeah.
Is that where we did it last time?
No. Last one we did at the Veterans Hall in down on Daphne in downtown
Oh.
Valley Springs.
No, we did one at that clubhouse, right? It must have been right before the pandemic.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't
That
go
was
to
Pre
it.
Jessica.
We've had one there before, the rate
Yes.
study 5 years ago.
Yeah, the rate.
After the
Very-
rate study, we had one.
I
we
guess
had
it
one-
was 10 years ago, 10 years
No,
ago.
yeah, no, this
after
was
the-
just 4 years ago.
Okay,
We did one down there.
yeah, wasn't able to make it.
That's the one where I learned the lesson because we didn't have a huge turnout and I asked a few of the people that came what we could do to get better turnout. And the retired couple that was there said, you have to put on the outreach that there will be coffee and cookies available. It's not enough
That
to
was-
have coffee and cookies. It has to say it in
That
the
was the most-
outreach
okay.
materials. So we make sure we include that this time.
Live
around.
and learn. That was a big mistake. I'm
That's
sure.
right.
Yeah,
Um,
6. That's what they said.
let's see, am I forgetting anything here? Nope, I think that's it.
Very cool.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Yeah. All I got.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. All right, reports, board reports, information, future agenda items. Director Underhill.
Oh, yes, Director Underhill has a picture of the snow up there. If anybody wants to see what my driveway looks like.
Icy.
It's,
I heard it's
Icy.
icy.
yeah. A lot of accidents, people, and it's not the snow, it's the ice, because it is so darn cold up there. Look at how I'm dressed. I mean, it is pretty bad. Well, but we love it. We love all the water. We can use it, and I really don't have too much. That's all.
Okay. Director Thomas?
Well, I can assure you that Mozingo is really making a very, very significant, they're blasting into that project. I've been driving up and down Auburn's Ferry Road going to pick up gravel myself, and they've got just, I don't see, like 30 vehicles out there. They're unloading manhole elements right alongside the road. The one thing that I don't know, maybe you could talk to Jared about it. I'm not sure that their flagging is quite up to snuff. I don't know. Cars are zooming past in kind of close proximity to where they're working. I mean, that they may have it under control, but it just looked a little dicey. But I had a little storm damage at my place. I had a 2,500 gallon water tank that I hadn't connected to anything. And the night that the tornado blew through, that tank became a beach ball.
Oh,
And it blew off the concrete pad that I had it sitting on, and it went tumbling down into the valley below. And yesterday, I finally extracted 2 tractors that I had sent down there or driven down there to bring it back up. And the tank is still at the bottom of the hill, but I got the tractors out yesterday, finally. And
and
it,
how are you gonna drive them?
drive them?
The tractors?
No, they got extracted from the, a backhoe has the ability to kind of lift itself up on the side. And so we put stuff underneath this side and lift it up on this side. And got it and drove it out.
Oh,
But I had to have help to do that.
yeah.
But that whole scene looks like some of the photos, but where the tractors were stuck, looks like the photo of the World War I, where they had the trenches and stuff. And the battle going on. It's just, there's no bottom to the mud. Right now. It just goes and goes. It's kind of interesting when you have a backhoe that has tracks and you can step off the top of the track and it's level with the ground adjacent to it. So it was buried. So,
Wow.
anyway, lots of fun, but project is coming along, be finished soon. That's my report.
Can I jump in here to maybe steal some of Director Skada's thunder?
Oh, no.
I just want to congratulate her on being appointed to the governance committee and
Oh,
Mountain
that's
Counties Water
right.
Resources Association. So
I forgot about that.
um,
What?
I think it's great. It's great for the district to have you involved in that.
I was
Yes.
appointed to the Mountain Counties
Governance Committee.
Governance Committee. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm glad you said something because I forgot all about it.
Go ahead and finish.
And we'll have a resolution next meeting for Director Ratterman's
Oh, God, come on, you're stealing everyone's thunder.
application to the executive committee at JPA. So
Oh, yeah, you got
Just
this
can't stop.
again, yeah.
Can't stop him, can't help himself.
you can put me at the end.
No, we're gonna switch this around. I'm in charge of this agenda now. General manager reports now is coming after board.
All
reports.
right, fair enough, fair enough.
Director
Okay, so
Skate-
back to me. So thank you, Michael, for saying that because I did forget. I'm the alternate on the engineering committee and I joined it remotely. I can't really attend. And I gotta say, I learned some things, so I'm gonna try and do that more often. I think if you're alternate, it's probably a good thing to do if you can.
Just real quick follow-up on that, because we changed the format, it was probably about a year ago, where it's really a standardized kind of report out on all the ongoing CIP projects and capital outlay projects. And I was mentioning to staff on Monday, I think it was, just how great I think that is and
Very
how
helpful.
I think it's just a very comprehensive report and it keeps everybody up to speed on all of the different projects that we have
Yeah.
going on.
It was very helpful for me, so thankful, and I'll make it a point to attend, because we'll do them remotely regardless of the change with the Brown Act stuff. All of
Yeah.
our stuff will be remotely, so an alternate wouldn't matter because I'm not.
Yeah, and I know engineering, mostly engineering, but operations staff too, put a lot of work into that report, so.
Oh, it was very good and very helpful
I
for
think
me,
it's really
so
good.
that was kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure I attended those to get more up to speed on projects and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then as far as storm damage for our house, I'm gonna knock on wood. For the last 7 years, we've always had trees fall. And last year we had 2 big oak trees and again, knock on wood, nothing. So pretty snow, it looks really nice and
Great.
I don't have to go anywhere in it if I don't want to. That's it.
Good for you.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you,
Um,
yes.
Director Underhill, you had one more item?
Yes.
Hmm.
I need to acknowledge East Bay Mud. You haven't been here in ages.
I decided I better drive again to make sure that I could find this place.
Everybody knows Gerald?
Welcome, Gerald.
Yeah,
Thanks.
stand up and introduce
So,
yourself,
you know,
because
he is on East Bay Mud, been with him over 20-some years, so troubleshooter, try to keep us out of court, peacemaker. Last year, the MC at the 4050.
Yes.
Well, I have
So
a
now they
question.
Put me on the general manager's office, so this is my 7th new boss.
Hmm.
I'm probably real close to retirement.
are you? Are you?
I'm young, but still.
I have a question. Isn't EV Mud the ones that found the prehistoric bone stuff? When are we gonna be allowed to go see that? Can we get a special tour? My husband and I would love to do
Years
that.
old.
Yeah.
And we're making reproductions of them, and the senior over at East Bay and myself are organizing the trailer, going to see if we can do that, do a display at both this county and Pellars and Hamburg.
Display here.
Nice.
I'd love to be able to go.
In the East Bay area, so we're under a lot of time constraints, but we're trying to get it.
Do you think they will ever let anybody come in? I know some college students and stuff are there helping with whatever, doing logging or whatever it is, but would the public ever be open to see that?
I'm hoping, but it's tough to even get them to talk about it. You know, they have no
It's
slides
too
up.
bad.
The public will come out and destroy what's there.
Right, but making it a controlled, like, okay, for 2 weeks, we're gonna let people come and you have to sign up, but what a great opportunity. We don't get to see those unless we go to Utah and everywhere else. So,
What,
right in our own backyard.
what kind of critter was it?
I don't know,
Oh,
a lot of,
it looks like they're all washed down together. 'Cause they're like-
right.
Huh.
Which would happen if there's a drinking pond too.
But this was like the massive carnivorous salmon creature, right? The prehistoric.
Yeah, and what do they call them, rhinoceros, and what were the other thing?
I could report back at the next
Pretty,
meeting. My
pretty
husband will tell me all
remarkable
of it.
creatures.
Very
Yeah, all kinds of
interesting.
stuff.
Well, come and visit us again. We miss you.
Yeah.
I do.
You need engineers, I always give a tour to University of Pacific School of Engineering
Oh.
at Comanche.
Oh.
So she might be a good contact for the engineering need, but you might need one with more experience in this stuff at school, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Got to start somewhere.
We've already cruised through the whole East Bay staff, trying to find, we may get to the college eventually.
Go ahead, say your thing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Gerald.
Okay.
Okay,
Wait a
One,
minute.
one thing, Michael, you mentioned some good things that came out of the engineering committee meeting. It always amazes me what a wonderful contribution that Director Davidson can make. I mean, when he said that Berkesee was underwater and you know, shouldn't we think about raising the road and the manhole access covers and stuff? I mean, I never would have thought about that, but have we approached the school district about that little problem yet?
We haven't had a chance to talk to him about it yet. I think we have a meeting with them tomorrow. Add that to the agenda.
So you're in amazement? when
But
you
we've
hear
had a
Davidson
lot-
Say something?
I'll say we've had a
You said
lot of
something smart at
discussions.
the end. Is that what you're saying?
We've talked to them extensively about the floodplain
I
on
do agree
Berkesee
with you
because
there.
we're still in the process of locating an intermediate pump station for that project. And the fact that there's floodplain there is a huge limitation. So we've had a lot of conversations about flood and access and Berkesee, but not specifically the dips in the road.
Well, the situation could be helped just by looking at the, you know, it's kind of overstating the obvious, but the road sort of is tipped toward Indian Creek there. So I don't know where where the designers are planning to put the pipeline, but if they would just simply move it to the other side of the road, they'd get the advantage of probably being at least a foot higher
The high side.
on the east side of the high side of the road. So.
Okay, your 3 minutes is up. Mr.
Okay.
Bennett.
All right, I got a couple items to report. I will not be able to make it to our next CCWD regular meeting on February 8th. I will be out of town on vacation. So we'll have the gavel,
February
or
8th.
very capable vice president. Want to see if we can follow up on camera, which is supposed to be on February 15th. If we are going to have a meeting and just yes or no. I don't know who's running, who's the administrative
For
assistant
our-
on that. Carissa? Okay, maybe someone could follow up with her.
For the next February.
Go ahead, Cindy.
You're not going to be able to attend the February 8th meeting, is that right?
Correct. Next week, we have a Mountain County meeting on the 9th, Aqua Legal Affairs on the 31st. And then at noon, Mountain Counties and a few other, well, as many as people want to join, the Water Use Efficiency Standards Work Group is meeting at noon on February 1st. If anyone's interested in joining that, I know Michael and Jessica are heading it up, along with Justin Caparuso with Mountain Counties. No one mentioned our dinner this Friday evening in Moke Hill. I'm hoping everybody
My
can
husband
make
and I
it. Our CCWD dinner, hope it's well attended. And the Michael kind of stole my thunder on this. I tried to talk over him, but I have thrown my hat in the ring for the executive committee at Aqua JPIA. There'll be a in-person vote at the May spring Aqua conference in Monterey on Monday. There'll be a resolution in front of this board to vote on and to see if I get my own board support in our next meeting.
It's good timing that you
Didn't-
won't be
I
here,
won't
so we
be
can have a
here, so
robust,
we can talk
we can
it
have a
over.
robust, open discussion.
Yeah,
about
talk it over thoroughly.
On the camera, did you say that there was a meeting scheduled and you wanted to confirm?
Yes.
When is that? When is that?
February 15th.
Because I'm the alternate on that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the same day that we have a finance committee, a CCWD finance committee meeting earlier that day.
Gotcha.
That's all that I have. Next item on our agenda, next board meetings, Wednesday, February 8th and Wednesday, February 22nd, right here. And our closed session has been canceled for today, so we won't be able to go into that. So as of right now, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Man, look at
Time,
you made your
time.